If you're an NBA fan, you've probably heard a lot about load management in recent years, and for a good reason.
Do you think load management is a major problem for the NBA?
But what exactly is it? In simple terms, load management is when a player, usually a superstar, decides to sit out certain games in order to rest and recover even if they're not injured. It's all about preserving their body and energy for the long haul, especially for the playoffs when the games really count. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, the reason load management has stirred up so much debate in the NBA is largely because of one man, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi has become the unofficial king of load management. It all started back in the 2017 to 2018 season when he was dealing with a quad injury while playing for the San Antonio Spurs. It was a mystery, lingering injury that caused him to miss most of the season, and it got everyone talking about whether sitting out more games might be better for players' long-term health. Then came his move to the Toronto Raptors. This is where things really took off. During the 2018 to 2019 season, Kawhi played just 60 regular season games. That's 22 games missed, not because he was hurt, but because the Raptors had a plan. They wanted to keep him fresh for the playoffs. And guess what? It worked. The Raptors won their first ever NBA championship, and Kawhi was named Finals MVP. Suddenly, load management didn't look like a bad idea at all. Hello basketball fans, and welcome to Hoop Vision. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Takes only a second, costs nothing, and will give you access to more basketball stories. Here's the thing with Kawhi. While it made sense for him and the Raptors, load management didn't sit well with everyone. Fans, especially those who paid top dollar for tickets, were upset when they showed up to see Kawhi only to find out he was resting. Analysts were split too. Some said it was smart, while others called it unfair to the fans in the spirit of competition. Load management quickly became one of the most controversial strategies in the league. However, it's not like Kawhi was the villain here. To fully grasp why Leonard embraced load management, you need to look back at his injury history. Kawhi's career hasn't been without its fair share of bumps and bruises. During the 2016-17 season, Kawhi suffered a severe quadriceps injury that would alter the trajectory of his future. The injury was so tough that he played only 9 games the following season with San Antonio. The situation became so complicated that it led to a falling out between Kawhi and the Spurs medical staff, ultimately resulting in his trade to the Toronto Raptors. Kawhi and his camp decided that the best way to protect his long-term health was to minimize his workload during the regular season. This is where the idea of load management took root. Rather than pushing his body through all 82 games, he would strategically sit out certain matchups, especially back-to-backs or games where his team didn't need him. The logic? Preserve energy for the playoffs, where Kawhi could go all out and deliver on the biggest stage. This approach paid off in 2019 when Kawhi led the Raptors to their first ever NBA championship. Yes, KD and Klay were hurt for the Warriors, but still, that was an epic run nonetheless. Despite playing only 60 regular season games, he dominated in the postseason, proving that load management could work. His performance in the finals, and particularly his iconic Game 7 buzzer beater against the Philadelphia 76ers, silenced the critics for a moment. It seemed that Kawhi had cracked the code. Less was more when it came to the regular season. But while it worked for him, it introduced a problem for the rest of the league. Kawhi's decision to embrace load management didn't just affect him, it set a precedent for other players and teams to follow. And in a league that thrives on star power, the absence of those stars on any given night becomes a significant issue. For fans, load management is more than just a strategic decision, it's a betrayal. Imagine this. You've been saving up for months, eagerly awaiting the one night your favorite NBA player comes to your city. You buy the tickets, wear your jersey, and head to the arena, but when the starting lineups are announced, you find out that Kawhi is sitting out due to rest. Suddenly, you don't feel that excitement anymore. This scenario has played out for fans countless times. It's particularly painful for those who don't get many chances to see these stars live, especially in smaller market cities. The impact isn't just emotional, it's financial. The tickets ain't cheap. Sometimes, fans are investing hundreds or even thousands of dollars in tickets, travel, and merchandise. They're paying for the experience of watching elite players like Kawhi, but when he doesn't take the court, they feel cheated. The ripple effect of load management also affects TV ratings and ticket sales. Nationally televised games are a big draw, so when those stars sit out, the product becomes less appealing. In the long term, broadcasters and sponsors notice, and ratings start to dip. Over time, this can erode the NBA's standing as an entertainment product. After all, the league is selling a show, and without its biggest stars, that show loses its appeal. If you think about it, it's not easy being an NBA GM these these days. Teams are caught in the middle of this dilemma. On one hand, they want to keep their players healthy for a deep playoff run, but on the other, they have to ensure that they're providing value to the fans who support them throughout the regular season. This balancing act has proven difficult to maintain, and Kawhi's approach has only amplified the issue. Before Kawhi, players like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant prided themselves on playing as many games as possible. They were old school in their mentality, believing that their presence on the court night in and night out was essential to their legacy. But with Kawhi's success of load management, a new wave of thinking took over the league like a plague. Teams began to see the regular season as something to endure rather than a showcase of talent. As a result, what used to be rare became a routine. It wasn't just Kawhi anymore. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and other elite players followed suiting up. Rest days became part of the new NBA lexicon, and teams began to prioritize playoff positioning over regular season dominance. This shift in mentality affected how teams approached the 82-game grind, and it became too obvious and less enjoyable for us watching. Before, every game felt like it mattered. Now, many fans and analysts view the regular season as a warm-up for the playoffs. The stakes of regular season games diminished as teams adopted the rest-first philosophy. This change also impacted young players entering the league, who quickly adapted to this new culture of load management. It set different expectations for what it means to be a star in today's NBA. Of course, we can't forget that the NBA is, at its core, a business. Teams and players are looking for ways to extend careers and ensure success when it matters most. But the cost of this shift has been huge. With Kawhi at the helm, the culture of the league changed, and it hasn't been the same since. So this is how the league responded. One of the biggest changes was the rule that teams could no longer rest healthy players for nationally televised games without facing fines. In theory, this rule was designed to keep the NBA's biggest stars on the court when the most eyes were watching. But in practice, it hasn't been as effective as the league hoped. Teams found ways around the rule, often listing players as having minor injuries to justify their absence. It became a cat-and-mouse game, with teams trying to protect their stars while also avoiding penalties. Fines were imposed on teams who violated the load management rules, but for franchises with deep pockets, the fines were just the cost of doing business. The Clippers, in particular, faced scrutiny for resting Kawhi, but they couldn't care less. They rested Kawhi during critical games, and despite the league's efforts, it didn't always prevent him from sitting out. The NBA is in a tough situation on this matter. On one side, there's the need to protect the health of its players who really struggle with being injury-prone. Many of them are dealing with long-term physical tolls from playing at such a high level, and that's where the ethics of fines, penalties, and other limitations come into play. On the other side, there's the need to ensure that fans get what they paid for. It's a difficult balance to strike, and so far, the league hasn't found a perfect solution. The question now is, has Kawhi Leonard's load management ruined the NBA, or is it simply part of the sport's evolution? There's no denying that his strategy has reshaped how teams manage their players. Gone are the days when superstars were expected to play all 82 games unless they were injured. Now, teams are more concerned with keeping their players fresh for the playoffs, which may have killed the regular NBA season completely. The excitement of tuning in for a random Wednesday night game just isn't the same anymore. On the flip side, you could argue that load management has extended the careers of some of the league's top players. By reducing wear and tear during the regular season, players will be able to perform at a high level for a longer period. From a business perspective, keeping these stars on the court could benefit the league in the long run. In conclusion, Kawhi Leonard's load management hasn't ruined the NBA, but it has fundamentally changed it. Whether you love it or hate it, load management isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and Kawhi's legacy will unfortunately be tied to this significant shift in how basketball is played at the highest level. The question for the future is whether the NBA can find a way to balance player health with fan expectations, ensuring that the sport remains as entertaining as ever while still being profitable as it always has been. And that's it for today, Hoop Fam. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments if you think load management is a good idea or if you think it just ruins the NBA season. Thank you for watching and growing this channel. Make sure you don't miss out on more NBA stories by hitting that subscribe button. See you in the next one.